Good morning, July 10th, 2018. I'm squatting in my son's yard. Why? Because when we moved out of our house, all the tools ended up at his house, and I have a project to do. I want to put an inverter on our couch, just to run the receptacles and the GCFI circuits. That's all I want to run. Luckily, it should also run my refrigerator, which is another thing that I wanted to run. Other than that, that's all we want it for. Be able to charge our iPhones, run a computer, a TV. Pretty much that's it. We don't have a hair dryer or anything like that that we need to run. So let me show you what I got. So I already upgraded the battery system. I did that in the spring. Those are two Group 31s. Okay, I'm gonna bring the number 2 wire out from the batteries underneath the coach. As you can see, underneath the coach is just about the top of the battery. Let's see if I'm not hold this straight. Okay, and I'm gonna come into this compartment. My son already cut me a board. I'm going to bolt it to the top of this aluminum frame, and I'm going to get some L brackets and secure it to the floor so it doesn't spin around, it doesn't bounce around. Okay, I don't mind that. I could be a little bit more professional and round that off and have that go all the way there, but as you know, these inverters get hot, and I thought if I had another place to get some air circulating, that would probably be better. So anyway, I went with the Windy Nation Vertimax 1500. It's way more than we need. I'd rather have a little more than not enough. Our coffee pot is a Keurig single cup. It's 700 watts. So at least in the morning, if I have enough battery juice, I'll be able to at least make a cup of coffee. In addition to things to mount on this board, we bought a Victron BM700 battery monitor, which I'm going to mount inside. And Windy Nation sent along a 150 amp A&L fuse. So both of those will be mounted right below the inverter. Okay, here's the plug and the cable that we'll use to run the power to the cabin. And here's the number 2 wire, 6 foot long. Hopefully I've not miscalculated. I need 6 foot to go to the positive side of each one of these fuse block and the shunt. And then the outside, I'm going to use a 3 foot section, trying to make sure that I don't lose any battery power between the batteries and the inverter. Yep, that's number 2, and I believe that was number 2. Yep, both of them were number 2. Just one just looks a little thicker than the other. Okay, so then where do we go from there? So we come in somewhere there, and we're going to go out somewhere over there. We're going to have 3 cables we got to run. One cable is for the power, the AC power. Another cable is the telephone wire that comes from the shunt. And last but not least, we can turn the inverter on from inside. It has a remote on-off switch. So that's what we're going to run off of. Okay, now here comes the fun part. My coach has a Arctic blanket underneath it, and I'm gonna have to run it almost 20 something feet from there all the way back there, pretty much behind the second tire, before I can get it up in the cabin, because that's where my electric box is. Okay, but it doesn't look like removing this blanket is going to be too bad. I only have 4 of these bolts to remove, and it looks like the ones that are along the edge would be pretty simple. And in fact, it looks like the ones that are holding the brackets for the gas line are actually doing 2 jobs at once. They're holding the gas line and the blanket. So maybe maybe about a dozen bolts to take out, and I should have access up there. Okay, let's go inside. Show you what the plans are there. Because I'm not, probably ain't gonna show you step-by-step details. I'm not an electrician. I'm not saying this is the way you should do things. There's our girls. Okay, so inside, this is where my power panel is. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me get some lights going on in here. Sorry about that. Okay, so there's the power panel. I've already added 120 amp breaker to it, which I probably didn't really have to do, but that's what was recommended, to add that. And I'll tell you why in just a second. Okay, I had different plans for when I put this together, which did not include an ATS, but I decided to put an ATS in because Progressive Dynamics, who I'm not being endorsed by, made it so easy. Where it says generators, where my current power supply on shore power comes in. Where it says shore, that's actually going to be my inverter incoming power. And this one that says going to a panel, well, this is the panel it's going to go to. I got an on-off breaker on that, and then I'm only going to keep this at 15 amps, and this is going to supply receptacles and the GFIs only. So that's the only thing I'm going to pre-wire. So how does this work? Well, when I have normal power going to the coach, this will be switched to normal power, which is going to power this panel, which is already going to power everything that's down here. Okay? But when I go on inverter, this thing is automatically going to switch to shore, which is inverter, provide power to this panel. This side will be dead, but it will automatically pick this side up if I go on generator or if I go on shore power. So where it says shore, this is actually going to be my inverter. The guy over at Progressive Dynamics, talked to him on the phone, and he gave me a drawing on how to do this. Really nice guy. Okay, anyway, the BM 700, BMV 700. Okay, that's gonna be our battery monitor. I am going to, since I've been down here before, there's lots of room under there, and I'm going to go next to the stove, up along into the refrigerator cavity, and I'm going to take that wire and put it all the way up here. And I'm going to mount it someplace in this panel here. I've already had the microwave out, so I know where I have lots of room up here. Okay, and it seems a little bit out of the way, but it's not. I also bought a Bluetooth dongle, so in case I don't feel like getting up out of my chair, I'll be able to just use my iPhone to get all this information. Okay, the other thing that needs to be wired up there, and I found out already that this wire's a little short, but I talked to the inverter people, and they said as long as you get straight passage through telephone wire, you could put a like a union or butt connector on there and continue on. So I bought a 12-foot extension because I didn't think I was going to make it. But we're also going to put that up here. So inverter switch and my battery meter, and then I'll leave room up on top for whatever else. So that's what we got going so far. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm not in a hurry, but when I'm done, like the guy at Progressive Dynamics said, I'm not going to have to worry about my wife turning on something she wasn't supposed to because we were on inverter. Because I'm going to be bypassing the hot water heater, the air conditioner, the microwave, and the converter. and the hot water heater, if I didn't say that already. So anyway, that's the plan. My background is air compressors, and I used to work in control panels. So to me, this is a simple circuit that I should be able to handle. If anything, that breaker that I showed you before, the reason it's there is in case you have trouble with the inverter or you have trouble with downstream of the power being supplied. Of course, if anything did happen and I had to keep that off, we just wouldn't have any receptacles. So safety first. All extra breakers is always better than not enough. All right, I'll show you the install when it's done, or maybe sections of it as I start completing it. Talk to you later. Bye. Well, good afternoon. It is July 12th. And needless to say, we weren't in a hurry to do this project, but we finally got it going. So the green light is our inverter, and of course the other one is our Victron BVM 700 battery monitor, which I also got the Bluetooth monitor. Okay, the electrical setup, let me start from where the incoming power comes. As you can see here, I have a spare now that used to be receptacles. The converter is by itself, and I put another breaker in there for the GFI and receptacles. Coming out of the panel for that newest breaker, it goes to this panel here. That's an automatic transfer switch. That's progressive dynamics. If you want to know the information, I can get that for you. So incoming power for AC, incoming power for inverter, outgoing load only to this box. This box has two breakers in it, only for my GFI and my receptacles. One breaker is to turn off and on the power to the GFI and receptacles, and the other one powers all the receptacles. And I had to have a way to turn that breaker on and off, so I had to mount it on that wall, and it's not the best beautiful spot, but it's a protective covered switch in the event that you-know-who happens to trip the receptacle because she wants to run every kitchen appliance all at once while we're on the inverter. So, a little story behind this. I've had every appliance out. I had the microwave out in order to wire that. I've had the fridge out because, well, while I was drilling, if you see right below that vent pipe there, I was trying to come in right below that with the drill. What I didn't realize is the wall I was going through was actually a protective plate for two 12-volt wires. I ran right through it. So in order to repair it, I went ahead and pulled the fridge. I did four things while I had the fridge out. So it didn't go unnoticed or unwarranted. Number one, I put more Reflectix inside around the refrigerator to give it some better insulation. Number two, I had installed two fans to help cool the refrigerator on the outside. I was able to put them right underneath the radiator at the top of the fridge. I had them just blowing into the compartment. Now I have them located where they're supposed to be, and they're temperature controlled. Number three, I was able to fix the wires that I broke. And number four, what was the fourth thing?
Reflectix.
Yeah, I said the Reflectix. But we did four things while it was out. Fixed the wire, moved the fans, added Reflectix. Huh. Wow. I can't remember what the fourth thing is. Oh well. Anyway, don't want to bore you with that. The microwave obviously was out. The wire runs down about 18 inches through that wall into the refrigerator cavity. Oh, that's what we did. We ran that wire, was the fourth thing.
All right.
ran it down, and brought it out through here. In fact, here's the wires right here. And from here, they're going underneath the belly and to the front where the inverter is. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. Oma's anxious for me to get the hell out of her kitchen, put her stove back in, so we can get back to normal life. And as you see, the stove is out. So every appliance has been out. If we're down the road and somebody says the stove don't work or something like that, you know what? I think I can handle it now. Not the way I wanted to do it. So, okay, we're gonna head outside.
Move it.
Yeah, move it, move it, move it. All right. Well, there's the girls. Lucy wasn't feeling good the other day. When we were down at Valley Forge, we went for a nice long walk. It probably was equivalent to almost 2 miles. Lucy has bad hips, and that wasn't a good thing for us to do to her. And yeah, I know, it was my fault. It was my fault. I won't make you walk that far again. Yeah, that's right. You go ahead and yell at me. Okay. So, all the wires ran through the underbelly. And what we've done is, here you go. I don't know if this light will help or hinder what you're gonna look at. So what you have here is you got your battery wires coming in here. You got the shunt for the meter here. You had to put a new ground downstream so it knows how to register how many volts and watts and stuff you're using. 150 amp fuse came with the inverter, and as you can see, the inverter's on now. It doesn't matter if the inverter's on or not. With that transfer switch, it'll automatically go to shore power or generator first. Once that is lost, it'll automatically switch over to the inverter. We don't plan to leave it on all the time, but nice solid piece of wood. I mounted it through the frame up on top, put little clamps on there to make the wiring look good, and we had to come in behind it and down through the floor. I don't know if you could see it with everything going on. So then we came to the battery, and here's what we got going at the batteries. These are 2 D-sized batteries. They say when you hook up an inverter, you don't want to suck off of one battery. So what we did is we put the positive on one and we put the negative on the other one. This way we're always drawing off of both batteries at the same time. And by chance, these 2 wires are part of my solar system, so I'm charging both batteries at the same time. I have a plug underneath the camper. Running down these wires. Running to 200 amps of solar panel power. Now I got a little story to tell you about the solar power. My son is mowing his grass, making a bunch of dust, but it's his yard. Squatters shouldn't complain, right? What we got going, what I wanted to say was, we ran a couple tests. Here, I guess I'll turn this around so you can see me. I don't know how bad I look. I've been working all morning. I just finished this project moments ago. All right, can you see me? We ran a couple tests already. All the receptacles are running fine. I mean, we got hours and hours of power according to the meter. Unfortunately, when we put it on fridge alone, which was one of the reasons why we got the inverter, we knew the fridge was only 300 watts. The inverter's 1500, should have more than enough to handle it. Unfortunately, I don't have the charging power for 300. My solar panels is only 200. So I think what we're gonna do is we're going to look for one of those flexible 100 watt panels to add on, because I think my solar controller, Marie was just telling me Brian's on his way back down, so you might hear his lawnmower again. Add 100 watts to it so we don't suck the batteries down so fast. Well, good evening. It's our first day with our inverter. We have the TV going, not the stereo system. I'm making a cup of hot tea in our single cup Keurig, and we have one LED light on. Ooh, that's bright. So I thought I would sit here and see what happened. I hope you guys can see this. What would happen if I try to make a cup of tea on the inverter in the evening? That means, and the solar's shut off. I put the solar panels away. So this is strictly off of batteries. It's already brewing that cup. Actually, it takes about less than 3 minutes to heat up the water, and I could tell already that the heating element's turned off because the time remaining is going back up, and the current is only at 6.6 amps. Took a little bit of a draw on the battery. So now we're just on the TV and a light. Put the refrigerator on gas when we went on inverter. We're actually thinking to put 200 more watts of solar panels onto our batteries. Because one of the reasons we wanted to go solar was that we didn't have to run the generator for the refrigerator, and we didn't have to use propane for the generator. So my refrigerator pulls 300 watts. If you're only recouping 200 watts, you can tell that eventually the batteries are going to die. It's a losing battle. It's a uphill battle or downhill battle depending on which way you're looking at it. But we decided that we think we're going to add 200 more watts to it. And while we're sitting out in the desert next winter, we can leave the refrigerator on solar all day and only run gas at night. Sounds like a plan anyway. Anyway, just want to give you a last recording here. My tea is done. I need to add some sugar, and we're going to call it an evening. Cheers, everybody.